Yesterday, the Chicago Bears went forward with hiring former Seattle Seahawks offensive coordinator Shane Waldron as our new offensive coordinator. Today, we're going to take that a little further. Who benefits as far as players? What players benefit the most from this hiring? And what are the differences from the numbers of the Seattle Seahawks from 2023 to the Chicago Bears offensive numbers in 2023? We're going to break all that down right after this.
Down or lay down and get smacked with the pole.
By this time, everybody on that roster should know what it means to beat the Packers. It's simple.
If I was a coach, Justin Fields would have been balling from day one.
Before we go any further, I just ask y'all, hit that like button if you're watching on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button as well. Follow the page on Facebook and subscribe to the channel on YouTube, the Black Bear Podcast. One word, no spaces, the Black Bear Podcast. So yesterday, like I said, the Chicago Bears, made the announcement that, or news broke that Chicago Bears will be hiring Shane Waldron as the new offensive coordinator. Now, we just talked about a little background, a little bio on Shane Waldron yesterday. Today, we're going to take a look at some more in-depth numbers as far as players, because that's the most important, right? Justin Fields, Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, and Darnell Mooney, whoever's going to be playing under this coordinator. That's what we want to look at. So what players will what players will benefit the most from this offensive coordinator hiring? So we'll start there. When I look at this question and I read it, the first thing that comes to my mind is obviously, and this may not be so obvious, but the wide receivers. And when I say wide receivers, I don't mean Darnell Mooney. I don't mean DJ Moore. DJ Moore is coming off a historic game for himself, season for himself, a career high across the board. So I ain't talking about him. I am actually talking about Darnell Mooney, Cole Kmet, if you want to throw him in there, because the Cole Kmet had a pretty good season. But the wide receiver 2, the wide receiver 3, those are who I'm looking at. So let's take a look at these numbers right here. These are ESPN numbers, so they are correct and accurate. You see DJ Moore's numbers. We're not looking too much at those, but Cole Kmet targets. We won't even look at the yards and the touchdowns too much. I want to pay attention to the targets here. And the targets for our second leading receiver, which is a tight end, Cole Kmet, he had 90 targets. 90 targets, not horrible. That's a career high for him. But your supposed number 2 wide receiver, Darnell Mooney, which is right under Cole Kmet, he had 61 targets in the Luke Getsy scheme. Now, granted, I get it. Quarterback play is very important in these numbers, so we just gonna, keep it pushing. But 61 targets as the number 2 wide receiver, number 1 tight end, you had 90 targets. So let's just jump over to look and see what Shane Waldron did with the Seattle Seahawks in 2023. Number 2 wide receiver, Tyler Lockett, actually had more targets than the number 1 wide receiver, DK Metcalf. Obviously, he had 1,000 yards, as you can see. But the targets, 122 for Tyler Lockett, 119 for the number 1 wide receiver. That's about 60 more targets for the number 2 wide receiver than our number 2 wide receiver. Now, if you want to count Cole Kmet instead of Darnell Mooney as our number 2 wide receiver, that's fine. Cole Kmet had 90 targets compared to Tyler Lockett's 122. I do think that will benefit the Chicago Bears wide receiver room. Even if Darnell Mooney is here or gone, that's not the conversation we are having today. The targets for the wide receiver 2 and wide receiver 3. So let's look at the rookie Jackson Smith-Njigba. A lot of Bears fans wanted him last year. I did not necessarily. 93 targets. So that's more than Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet. Cole Kmet had 90. Darnell Mooney had 61. Their number 3 best receiver, if we're going to combine all receivers, tight ends, and wide receivers, he had more targets than both of those guys as the number 3 option there. And then you see their tight end, Noah Fant, with 43 targets, which Cole Kmet blew that out the water. Cole Kmet had a really good season. That's why he got the $50 million extension. But as far as what players would benefit the most from this change, now, when we look at some of these rushing numbers in a second, it ain't gonna look too pretty for the running backs. The Bears had a pretty good running game, and just last year, the Seahawks running game wasn't the best. I don't know if that's injuries or what. I didn't follow the Seattle Seahawks, but you see it. You see the difference. I think that there's no argument there. The Chicago Bears wide receiver room will benefit the most, and I could show you the quarterback numbers, but outside of the quarterback, because that is a whole debate in itself, the quarterback spot. So, like I said, you see the numbers. Excuse me. You see the numbers. Darnell Mooney was our second most targeted receiver, but our second most targeted receiving option was Cole Kmet. He had 90. Darnell Mooney had 61 targets. Both of those were blown out of the water by Shane Waldron and their third best wide receivers targets, which was 93. I'm excited to see how that can be implemented into the Bears wide receiver room. I think those numbers, those aren't just numbers. A lot of people, you can make numbers to fit any argument you're making. I think those numbers actually do mean something. Okay, so that is which Bears players will benefit the most. So let's just say Darnell Mooney will be here. I do think his numbers, his targets, yards, and touchdowns, I think everything will go up under Shane Waldron. I don't know if Darnell Mooney will be here, but let's just say for shits and giggles, he will be here. That's what I'm thinking. Moving on to, let's make some comparisons, because like I said yesterday, we were just on a high horse, just happy we got a competent offensive coordinator, mainly just happy we got Luke Getsy, his replacement in the door. The Seattle Seahawks offense over the last 3 years, so throw the Bears out. We'll look at the Bears in a second. The last 3 years, 2023, as you can see, they were 21st. So last year was an obvious drop-off from 2022 and 2021. Shane Waldron's first 2 seasons in Seattle. I don't know what that was about. I'd have to talk to a Seahawks fan and get more info on that. But you can see the numbers: 21st, 14th, 28th, 17th. All worse numbers than the previous 2 years, except with the passing yards the first year. I don't know what that's about, but I'm pretty sure that played a big role in Pete Carroll basically getting fired or mutually agreeing to leave or walk away or whatever, however that went down. The numbers in 2023 were just worse than the past 2 years. So I wouldn't use the last season, which I'm going to do. That's crazy I say that, to basically judge Shane Waldron on whether he could replicate this success or whether you would want this success replicated or not for the Chicago Bears. So let's just take a look at last year only. I won't look at 2022, 2021. We're going to look at last year only because the Bears were obviously handicapped in 2022. And Matt Eberflus was not there in 2021. So we're going to look at last year for both teams combined. Okay, Chicago Bears. Total yards were, and I can't read that. 1 second, people. 1 second. Chicago Bears total yards were 19th, 342 per game. I'm going to just flip back and forth because that's how we're going to do it. 342, 19th. Let's look at the Seattle Seahawks. 23rd. So they take a hit there. Our running game, our rushing yards definitely helped those numbers because, as you can see, the passing yards for Seattle Seahawks was 14th in the league, and the Chicago Bears definitely had a 27th passing game in the league. That was 182 per game. That was horrible compared to that 230 per game. We all know the Chicago Bears passing game struggles, and that's why we're in this position right now. Moving on, Chicago Bears rushing game, and this is where we got them beat. This is where you might take a hit, Chicago. Honestly, if the rushing that we had this season, the season before, this might take a hit under Shane Waldron. Just keeping everything on the table, not trying to Not trying to push my agenda or narratives on anybody. Rushing yards, 141 was second. Rushing yards for them 92, and that came in at a 28th. Does that say 28th? I think. 28th, yes. So huge difference from 28th to second. I'm sure everybody would rather be second. If you want to be second in rushing yards, you're gonna give up some of that pass yards. So you do the math on that. Moving on. Points per game, 21.4 was 17th for the Seahawks last year. This was a down year for Shane Waldron and the Seahawks. And the Bears was 21.2, which was 18th. So they right next to each other, 17th and 18th. Nothing special there. Third down percentage is very shocking because I always hate the Bears on third down. But we came in at a 41.2%, which was 12th in the league. And you got the Seahawks and Shane Waldron, 36.2, 23rd. And I guarantee you, Bears fans would rather have this number here, this 12th, 41.2% on third down by the offense, over this 36%, 23rd in the league. So basically what I wanted to do was try to like get a sense of what players can possibly benefit from this coach and what players can possibly be affected negatively. I think that running back room may be affected negatively by Shane Waldron. But look, don't get me wrong. Shane Waldron, I'm sure their running backs was hurt over there. I said that. I didn't follow the team. I don't know what they dealt with. But we just going to take the numbers for what they are. The Chicago Bears may have them a pretty good signing in Shane Waldron. I'm looking forward to seeing what he could do with this team, what he could do with possibly Caleb Williams and Justin Fields. I'm going to keep trying to drop content for y'all every day because news going to be dropping every day for this team. The Chicago Bears are the eye of the offseason right now, just like last season, and I love it. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube at the Black Bear Podcast. One word, the Black Bear Podcast. No spaces. Follow and like the page on Facebook as well. We like to interact with all fans. We like to have fans come on the show if they want to. Look, this is the voice of the fans, man. Y'all have a good rest of y'all day. Enjoy the sun or the snow wherever y'all at. I'm out.